Hello and welcome back to another episode of Boys Gone Wild. I'm drinking iced tea in the pod, ice in my glass, iced tea in that glass with the ice. I feel very much like a southern lady on my porch with a nice glass of sweet tea.
A nice old glass of tea.
One of those nice old white ladies who's very polite but is incredibly racist.
I do declare that this tea is delicious.
And black
People are inferior.
Why, beg your pardon. I'm so sorry for stepping on your dress, mister. Also, I think black people are an inferior race.
Delicious tea. I can't get tea anywhere like that other than the South.
I think that's one of my it's one of my go-to accents is Southern.
What, hysterical
Well, I
Southern
think that's exactly what the kind of thing I'm going to do is.
That's more... Because there's the...
Crazy guy in the Western bar.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've come down here in the wrong town, fella.
That's Swamp Man. Do you know what I mean? That's
He's
1,
covered
2.
in weeds.
Yeah, that's 1, 2.
I think you just stepped in the wrong place, sir.
Goddamn gators.
God, get them goddamn gators out of here.
We're swamp people here. You know.
You better watch out for the gators.
But then there's the slightly middle class,
There's a bit more.
Louisiana old lady on the veranda.
Well, I think that's a lovely way to do things, sir.
Because that's a bit different from
He
this
kind
guy.
of goes a bit harder.
He's a lot more fun though. I definitely prefer to
He might be
spend.
cleaning her garden.
I definitely prefer to spend a weekend with him.
Yeah, then this...
Oh, well, that's a lovely thing to say to a
the
woman.
polite racist lady.
You got to be polite to a lady.
It sounds a bit like the paedophile from Family Guy as well.
Oh, I think that's a definite thing to say. Oh, that's an awful thing to do. Oh, come over here.
I've got a bit of vodka in my iced tea, which is a bit of a panic move. But
Did you just? It really. I heard some clanging in the kitchen. It really looks like you just kind of went downstairs and then cobbled anything you can together.
You asked me if I wanted a drink, and I knew I didn't want a beer because it clags me out. And then I was
You need to stop using that.
What, clag?
Yeah. Was it you yesterday that said I'm all clogged up?
No.
Okay, then you're all right.
Who told you I clogged up?
It must have been Adam. I'm sorry. We can't keep bringing him up in such terrible ways.
What, his bowels are clogged up?
Yeah, I think he meant to say that he was full, but we just finished the pizza and he was like, "Oh, I'm all clogged up now."
No, you can't say that.
And I looked at him, I was like,
I'd
"What?"
much rather him talking about shit.
I was looked at him and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "You constipated?" He went, "Oh no, I'm just full."
Yeah, you
I
can't,
went, you can't be doing that. You're not a drain.
That's a red flag.
Big red
out
flag.
On a date, someone goes, "Oh,
nice and clogged
all
up.
clogged
Oh,
up."
that's plugged the hole.
Yeah, biggest red flags on a first date. If she, I think she uses roll-on deodorant
At the date.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's a large red flag.
yeah.
Racially abuses a waiter.
That's up there.
It's up there.
Below the roll-on deodorant, though, we've got to have some priorities here.
We've got to have some priorities. Eat soup with a fork.
Incredibly fast because of how little soup she's getting. She can only finish it.
So it's like a turbo hand movement, but no
like
soup's being consumed.
Because it has to be like, you're literally like this...
Hoovering up.
Yeah.
If her voice is, I don't know.
Really low.
Well, that's unfair. I don't think that's fair.
What if she spoke like this?
Well, it would put me off, but I don't think it should be a red flag. Do you know what I mean?
If you're on a first date.
Because a red flag should be a sign that something's wrong here.
Hello, Andrew.
Something's wrong there. Something's slightly wrong there.
No, this is nothing about gender dynamics.
But what about
absurdly
what
low.
about if she's one of those people that has to use hello,
It's
like one of those voice things.
offensive.
why is that offensive?
Because there's someone with a...
I'm saying what about, because I think people have low voices. So you're
but
being
if they-
offensive by saying it's a red flag.
I've always thought one of those, if you could customise your voice.
What would yours be?
Oh, God damn it, hello. It'll be like...
With the southern guy.
It'll be like, it'll be like I'm stuck inside this guy's larynx.
Constantly in fear.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Let me out. Let me out.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
Who does Rob Brydon's Man in a Box voice,
Man in
isn't
a
it?
Box. We're running on empty. We've done more podcasting at this time of the week than we would have used to, because yesterday, two days ago, on Monday, we did our first live podcast.
And we have a podcast tomorrow.
And we have we're guessing on someone's podcast tomorrow. But I used nearly all of my podcasting powers and energy and focus on Monday. So this one, I want it to be a free hit where I'm gonna, I'm not going to be the quickest. It's not going to be the most profound episode.
It's not going to be smart.
It's not going to be smart because the amount I've had to focus on podcasting has gone up exponentially because of the live podcast.
And we've just run around outside in fat suits.
Yeah, exactly. We just shot another one of the 2000s TV sketches. So I am creatively spent.
Yeah.
This is I could easily call this episode "Scraping the Barrel." So on the live podcast, thanks very much for everyone for coming.
Yes.
I did not expect it to go so well, to be honest. It was our first one, and I thought none of us didn't really know what to expect. But it was just fucking incredible seeing everyone come out.
Yes, good to put some faces to names.
I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, it was very surreal seeing everyone in one place and having everyone who kind of gets the sense of humour.
Yeah. There was only a couple of bringers.
Yeah.
Which was a nice thing. I mean, terrifying experience for me. First time on stage.
Yeah. I saw Andrew's mouth fell out his arse at about 3 p.m. on Monday. I think we'd spent way too long trying to get the social anxiety horn, which throughout the show we gave people a horn to honk if they were feeling socially anxious. And all through that time, we were more focused on the admin task. And I think when we got back home, there was just a moment when Andrew just realised that in 5 hours he was going to have to go on stage for the first
Well, that
time.
was the worst thing, because all of you fucking dickheads are up there who've done loads of stuff. Particularly Paddy and Russell, who were like, 43 years old? Who've been doing stand-up for years. And it's... because all of you were saying how nice of an experience it was compared to stand-up, because it's nicer and it was good crowd and it's a different kind of thing and you're up there with other people, you're laughing and stuff. That was my first time doing fucking anything, and and it was just like go and fill an hour and a half basically. I was like, well, what if I forget what my name is?
Yeah.
So
it was a pretty excruciating experience.
It was, but as soon as we got to the venue, it changed. Just being in the room and like being able to stand up, talking to the mic a bit. And I also just had quite a lot of whiskey before I went on.
Yeah.
Because that I found I kept kind of drinking throughout I only had 2 beers throughout the whole podcast, so it wasn't that much. But I had quite a lot of whiskey before. And I just found that the adrenaline I just wasn't drunk really for the whole night.
Oh, really?
Honestly, even afterwards.
Was it mainly? Do you think it was the focus needed? Because I often find I get drunk when I have to focus so hard I can't even lose.
No, but even afterwards. So even I'd only eaten 2 sandwiches that day.
Yeah.
And then even afterwards, when people were buying me shots, many more beers were had afterwards. I was out until 2:30. And I was just not that drunk at all, because I think the adrenaline was just counteracting the alcohol. But there was a point when we were on the stage a little bit where I kind of, because the nerves go slightly, but you're more focused and you're more just taking it in. And then that was when the nerves went and the alcohol kind of seeped in. I was like, oh, I am actually quite drunk right now. I already looked across. I was like, oh shit, I'm not entirely sure what's going on.
Was there any disassociation when you were up
there? Yeah.
Huge amounts.
Yeah, I think definitely for parts. The thing is, because I wore the sunglasses, which because it felt right to do so anyway, because I very rarely don't wear the sunglasses. But also it was a nice way to ease myself in, because I could only see the front 2 rows really.
Yeah.
But that made it a weird experience as well, because there were times I was just kind of looking around what's going on? Where the fuck am I?
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, because you've been around comedy for a while and haven't done live stuff, it just ended up that you were thrown in the deep end, which is quite a rare thing to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen very often.
Yeah.
It's normally a very slow fade up.
Well, mostly you do 5 minutes at an open
5
mic.
5 minutes for 5 years.
Go and do an hour and 45 minutes in a sold out show.
Yeah. But for me, doing stand up all the time, it was probably the most fun I've had on stage, because I was saying to Drew, it's it's very strange being genuinely made to laugh while performing and being on stage, because when you do stand up, you're telling jokes you've told many times, you're trying to work them out, or you're trying to make the audience laugh. But having other comedians on there and being roasted while up there, and then being surprised by jokes while you're also on stage and not in the audience, and being made to laugh like an audience member but also be on stage, that was fucking incredible.
Yeah. And I look forward to being at that point where I'm easy enough and not confused enough.
You seemed very hard on yourself.
But that was...
You must have been incredibly... You should be incredibly proud of yourself.
Yeah, but
that's a very hard thing to do.
I think because partly what
it's so much worse for you.
Well, there was a point at the there was a point at about 3 p.m. I would have been happy if I just didn't run off crying.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it was strange that you seemed almost...
Yeah, I know, but it's easy to have... because I'm competitive.
Yes.
And I want to be good at shit.
Yeah.
And like, well, it's good. It shows I have a desire to get better at this. And that's as well because it's different because it was always going to be different from this podcast. Whereas taking it live naturally, but like I think you compare it to what you're like on this podcast, and then trying to translate that into live, it's going to be a different thing anyway. So I mean, as I was saying, even when we do you remember when we first did live radio at Raw?
Sorry,
I know you're not listening.
No, sorry.
Okay,
your thing was very low, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I can boost it.
Do you remember when it was like when? Shall I just stop?
Go on.
It was like when we first... It's a bit like when we just first did live radio shoot at Raw at Warwick. Do you remember just the terror when we first went in the room? We were trying to... Because we had those set pieces that went okay. But it's a bit like that, and then you naturally kind of just get into that. So the first one is always...
I think our first radio show's still up on YouTube.
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
We came in with some sort of Tame Impala joke. We definitely did Elephant at one point. It's like our very first thing because we came in with a song.
Oh yeah,
because we used to do song puns.
If you should listen, type in Gordon Cohen Radio.
Try and find episode 1.
If you go to episode 1, all of pretty much every single one of our episodes is up on YouTube from our radio days. If you listen to the first one,
we're so nervous and so terrified.
Just our squeaky voices.
This is that, and then just like getting out a bit so quickly. We had no filler in us whatsoever because we were just terrified, staring at each other.
And then you do a song break, like, oh god, what are we talking about
now? It's frantic. So it felt a bit like that. As in the first one that you're doing, so it's about kind of just like getting used to the form, getting used to the difference and the nerves that go with it. But once you get the first one out of the way, it's all up from there.
Yeah, I really want to do another one because especially, I guess it's the style is fairly similar to the style of stand-up I've been doing recently, which is like I've been getting so bored of the writing I've been doing. I've been mainly riffing and emceeing and sort of using the crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you can create a podcast-like show, it just means that you can just follow through all of that stuff and in a much safer space to sort of riff and experiment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think I'm very excited to get another one in.
Oh yeah. Well, I kind of want to do as many as possible quickly.
Yeah.
In a way, just like fairly quickly, just because you want to stay, in the rhythm. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go through exactly the same.
And then we had Russell and Paddy on in the second half, who are brilliant. But it was because those guys also live on stage pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just having that whole feeling. But I think you think you were far less, you seemed, when I listened back to quite a lot of it, you threw in jokes.
Yeah.
I guess it was just internally.
It's kind of like an instinct.
Yeah.
Which is what I think because having podcasted for a long time now, you just kind of, it naturally comes out. I know it went well. It absolutely did.
Yeah.
But you can do better. And which is it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because there were moments when like it was because I think part of it particularly when there was 4 of us on stage, you don't want to like convolute the conversation.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of it where it was obviously because you guys are so used to it, and there was like all of you fighting for the stage almost, and that was a bit where I was like, I'm not fighting for the stage.
You can't. Yeah.
I was like, well, I could.
Hello.
What? But you also don't want to, because I can be conscious of us talking over each other too much on a podcast.
Sure.
So when you've got you 3 fucking egotistical maniacs on stage,
what's the name of the game?
It's the name of the game. But so you don't want to make it too convoluted. But no, it obviously I was happy with it. It went well. But you just want to be as good as you can be.
Interesting. Does it at all make you feel more interested in something like stand-up?
Maybe it didn't because I thought it would be interesting to reflect on that afterwards. The thing is, I think I enjoyed the laughs I got, but not that much because it was so long, and I was like, okay, great, that went well. What are you going to do for the next hour? So I know that's different because you're not going to be doing long slots kind of thing, but.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's one of those things. As soon as you go up and you try and do comedy in front of people in a live setting, once you've done that one, it can demystify a bit of the terror. It's always going to be a bit scary, but it's not going to be as much as it is the first time you do it.
Yeah, I do think I've certainly having BB go through stand-up, I've certainly had a bit of a change in how I view stand-up. I guess before, when I was young, it was like the easiest and sort of only way to get your comedy out there and that sort of validation. So it felt like there was such a rush from like having some sort of creative outlet like that. But now there's so many different ways you could sort of
that we're doing
get that sort of stuff. And then stand-up, though it's in many ways, in some ways, stand-up's the easiest because anyone can do it. There's no barriers to it.
Yeah.
So you can just, if you want to get into show business, there's probably no easier way than starting stand-up in many ways. But I think it's also the hardest. It's the most grunt work, and it's
that was the thing I didn't. I've always, this is the reason why I've never even properly considered. I mean, I've considered it, but just putting yourself through that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's not. I don't crave the, and I say validation. I don't mean to be mean with that, but because I think it's more than that. But I don't crave that thing enough to put yourself through the difficulties of it.
No, definitely.
And hearing you and fucking Sean talk about it, and just the plan to how can we stop doing this shit?
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of people are doing. I mean, stand up when it's good is great, and when you have it, when you build it to a point where you can basically get your own audience and your own shows, but you do go through some absurd strife, especially the amount of. So it's also, but the challenge is what maketh
man.
It's what gives edge in the sense of having to go to an audience where no one's a fan of you or might not even like your humour set at all.
Try and win them.
Learning the skills to try and win them round.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously loads of stuff you get out of it, but at what costs? Because it leaves a mark. Certainly.
Would there be any world that you would consider stopping it if other things were more successful? Just hearing some of other people's comments I've heard when they're just getting weighed down by it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I certainly. I looked at the American model, and it feels like a lot of comics over there, when they get other stuff, they stay doing stand up, and after a special, they go straight back into the clubs. And what kind of keeps a lot of American comics a longer shelf life. Yeah, where they don't dry up as quickly. Someone like Bill Burr or people like that, or even Chappelle,
who seems to just be getting better almost.
Yeah, it seems to be getting better because after each time they stay in that sort of, they stay in the scene, they stay in.
They're never out of it.
Yeah, and they keep a bit of the struggle in there.
Yeah,
and then in the UK it's a smaller scene, but you can kind of get to the top quicker, and it seems like a lot of the time in the UK circuit. You kind of get to the point where you're on TV, and then you just start selling out your own tours, and you just play to your own audience, and you just write a show every year that's just for your own audience, and you kind of leave the circuit. And I do think that's a negative effect on some of the bigger acts, and I wouldn't want that to happen.
You don't want to be a washed up.
But then also, can I be asked? I've been thinking about that sort of stuff a lot, but I just haven't even put an hour together for stand-up.
Just got to play it by ear, haven't you?
And I was also a filmmaker before doing stand-up, and
you fooled me.
Fooled Andrew.
And I was making them with you.
Yeah. So it's weird thinking of going into film when it was sort of stand-up was what I went into from film.
When you say film?
Just making stuff, writing stuff.
And
that sort of stuff I do feel is more creatively free.
Yeah.
I just have some things I need to hit with stand up, and then I'll properly think about where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Play it by
but I think a lot of people who still do stand up, they don't have other releases. And
Yeah. Well, that's why you see, I mean, it's almost part of the premise of Finn versus the internet.
Yeah. He's trying to break out, but then Finn's certainly at a level where his stand-up's he's developed his voice enough that I think stand-up's really fun for him.
Oh yeah,
it's and I'm definitely not there.
God no. Well, he's old.
So I've still got so much more grind to go before I can get to a point where it's the dream
enjoyable.
The dream is so much better than it used to be, in the sense of I just do the gigs I want to do. I can feel comfortable experimenting with stuff, and I don't feel there's too much pressure on it. But the dream is to be at that stage, people like Finn and Sean, something like that, where you kind of got your voice solidified. You've had a couple of hours out into the ether, and then you can do other stuff, but then you can drop in and still develop stand-up, because it's a great way just to get that rush again.
Yeah, I feel.
But yeah, after seeing how BB took it and just seeing how it like psychologically broke her,
Yeah.
it is interesting that I don't recommend it to everyone anymore as this sort of like...
Because you recommended it to everyone.
Everyone.
It was terrifying.
Everyone should
Strangers on the street.
Everyone should do it. I mean, it will make you better as a comedian if you do it, but it's about whether it's the psychological toll is worth it. And it's the best way to meet people. But yeah, there's so many different routes now that you should only ever do it if you love it. And we don't think stand-up needs any more people who are trying to use it to ride into something else. You know?
Yeah.
But do you think you'll ever try it, is the question?
Yeah, maybe. I think part of it is, as you grow up, you slowly start caring less about what people think. And I think there's been something I remember caring a lot when I was younger, and that was like it really dropped off. I don't know, like 19 or something, like quite aggressively dropped off to now it's almost the other way.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of semi-immaturity in that kind of thinking is still there. Like you almost need to go up and, because you had a bit of it. You can have a bit of it even just from the live podcast, where you realise someone not laughing at a joke isn't the end of the fucking world, and like it really doesn't matter that much. And it's about, I don't know, kind of harnessing that energy and bringing your own thing, bringing your own kind of personality without it being the end of the world if it doesn't go down well on one particular night. Because although it's like the idea of it that's the scary thing, whereas I think it isn't actually as bad as I'm building up in my head in practice.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess from my perspective, I've literally been doing that sort of stuff since I was 18. So going into the live podcast, it was like more as a different version of that. But for you, that must have been,
It was eye-opening because
you're realising all that stuff real time.
Yeah. And it was, because it wasn't...
I've bombed 10 times in 36 hours. I've bombed 10 times on stage in 36 hours.
And that's just in the last week.
That's just in the last... That was 2 days before the thing. And that's what you know, when you're really bad at stand-up and you bomb that many times in that short... You do 5 gigs a day. It does give you a point where it's like, you know, I can...
Yeah.
I can bomb without back sweat now.
Yeah.
Which is... That's a real achievement.
Because I think part of it is you might go up there and, as happened on Monday in the panic stage of the day for that hour, where you could kind of go up and then you think, what will my... Because you're kind of seeing how you will react in real time to a bad situation, something that might not be going well. You think, am I just going to panic or whatever? But then what I did think was, even if there was one thing that didn't get a laugh or something, it may be more like, I'm going to go harder, like you go bigger kind of thing, which is a good reaction.
Was that what you were thinking stagecraft-wise?
Yeah, I've absolutely felt I'm going to say anything that comes to my fucking head here. Which,
if you didn't get a laugh...
If you didn't get a laugh, it was like, oh, that's annoying. I want to get another one.
There's a comedian called Mark Watson. Do you know Mark Watson?
Yeah,
Mark Watson. I saw him do stand-up in Edinburgh like 3 years ago, and he did this interesting thing. I don't know how much was written, but he has this very nervous style, and he just fires out punchlines, and he seems to only ever leave a joke when it hits with a big laugh. So he would either do one punchline, big laugh, he would move on. He might do that one punchline, small laugh, second punch, tag, medium laugh, and every time it looked like, oh, that line didn't work, he would keep tagging it, bang, big laugh, move on. So it was just every it was insane to watch, because at every sentence it even looked like he'd fucked it up, or like, okay, that wasn't so strong a line, but then if the punchline wasn't great, then he'd add 3 more details until he'd literally find it till where the audience wouldn't
settle until he got the laugh.
Which, you know, I think that's from years of experience, but like, I've certainly think that's the real skill, is that ability to kind of like, you feel out the laugh and then you can just turn into laughs. So yeah, I imagine a lot of the stuff you're just learning on stage.
Of course, yeah. Especially, as I said, just the difference of, you know, going up and doing 5 minutes to being up there for fucking ages.
Yeah.
It means you can't. It was a great lesson. I really enjoyed it. Particularly that was the thing I found a bit, just I was looking at the clock sometimes being like, Jesus Christ, we've got a long time left.
Interesting.
Because you get a good lot. I think there was maybe towards the end of the second half, I think I kind of say something, get a good laugh, I'd look at the clock, be like, can we finish now?
Wow. In the second half?
Yeah, second half, because I was like, you know, you get the laugh and you're like, okay, great. Can we stop now? Because I think I'm spent here.
Interesting.
Because it was ages on stage for my first time.
So yeah, it's really, I can imagine. So to me, it went by so quickly.
It did go by quickly. No, like it did go by quickly. I'm not saying it didn't. But it was only at that moment when I glanced at the clock. It was almost like you want to finish on a high.
Yes.
Because there's still 20 minutes. Because still in the back of my mind, there's 20 minutes where I could just lose my head here. Although I knew I wouldn't lose my head, but it could be of not like getting another laugh.
Yeah, something that was really interesting for me is it was I found it tough sharing nerves with someone. Stand up, you have your own shit, and I've been in so many nerve-wracking situations, but it's always been a personal thing, and it's always been off my own accord, and it's always been my own doing, and it's always been like, I'm the reason I'm here. So all these nerves are personal and mine, and don't need to be shared with anyone else. And it's just all in its own thing. If I fuck up, it's on me. If I succeed, it's on me. That's kind of the beauty of stand up. But yeah, the feeling of going on stage and then having someone else there who has their own nerves, and it's like, and like that sort of responsibility was really interesting.
It's different. It's different in that situation because it was my first time.
Yeah, exactly.
So the onus was on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I wasn't even interested. I didn't mind. The onus on me was that I was actually fine with that. So the thing that I was stressed about was it would have the feeling of forcing you out before you were ready or something like that, and that feeling of seeing. That's what's terrified me more than anything.
Yeah, but that was never the case.
It didn't turn out to be at all. But that was more the kind of stress of sharing those sort of things.
Yeah. But it was a joint, obviously a thing. It was, and I knew it was always going to be like that, and that was the whole point. You've just got to fucking do it.
You just got to go. You
just got to fucking do it. So it was as soon as we first had the idea, it was like, yeah, just do it. Let's just go for it, and then you fucking deal with it on the day.
You pushed for the live podcast as well early doors.
Yeah. Because I want to do it. It's something because I think there's a point. Like I think I really, really enjoy live performances.
Yeah,
really enjoy it. It's just
breaking through.
Just breaking through that bit, and the sooner you do it. I've had it with some. It was like when compare it. It's a very different thing, but like to when I was DJing at uni. Just I knew I wanted to do it, and that first one I did was fucking terrifying. It's horrendous.
How does it compare to this?
This was. I felt it's different because when you're DJing to a club, it's like you've got the backup of the music. The music is always there. You're not coming up with shit out of your mind. You've got to like read the room, like play the right kind of
Spotify playlist.
I did crossfade on the Spotify playlist. That's how you do it, isn't it? But you obviously had the music, and it's not like you're talking and you're trying to be funny. It's definitely the hardest thing to do live. But you're also people are meant to be having a great dancing time there, and like it can be so clear if you play the wrong thing, or if you fuck up. It can be almost Although a comedy room will sound so silent when no one's laughing, a club looks ridiculous if no one's dancing.
Do you remember when you cleared the room at Ella's?
Oh God!
What was it?
That was technically my first gig.
Was it Ella's birthday?
Ella's birthday, and then
it was funny because Andrew, we'd been at uni in like the kind of alt scene at uni, the techno scene, student run nights, where the onus is always on being cutting edge, being fresh, being current. So, and you took a lot of pride in building a DJ set.
Yeah, it's good music.
Be something the best music you could think of.
I did throwbacks in that one, but I did some like throwbacks that might surprise you.
And then he did it at Ella's, and then I think it became immediately that people wanted wedding music. Basically. They wanted
because
charts. Someone came up and asked, "Can you play Justin Bieber?"
Unironically. That was the problem. I realised it wasn't going to go well when I was about 20 minutes in to an hour and a half set, and I was playing like Eurythmics and stuff,
But even that was
I was like, okay, if you guys can't take Sweet Dreams, then we have a problem.
It was really.
And then came up, do you have any Justin Bieber? I went, no, of course I fucking don't.
Because it's quite different bombing as a DJ, I guess, because it's just the people leave.
Yeah, they leave the room, and you're just presented with emptiness, and then of course which luckily it kind of only really happened at that fucking event.
Yeah.
But no, it was the first. But then the first club one I did, and that was almost what could be weird about it is you don't like use your own decks. So that's a very specific thing that you have, like, you know your setup by like the back of your hand, and it's every knob is where it is and all that stuff. And it's really important where it is. And the first one I had in a club was I used someone else's. And where there was like this feature where, so a loop, if you just like loop a song, which I do all the time, it's a big thing. It's just like, it just repeats 4 bars basically. And then right next to that, there was like, it was like a toggle thing. The next one to that was sprinklers. It was sprinklers. It was like flood the club. So everyone got drenched and they all had to leave with wet t-shirts. No, the one next to that was basically skip the song halfway back. Which is a mental thing, terrible decks to have. Yeah. So it was all going like, okay. I was still just like shitting myself up there. But then I went to go and do a loop and I skipped the song half back. And then people kind of went, okay. Yeah. But as soon as I did the first one, then you get it. And you kind of want, in a way with these things, you kind of want something a bit bad to happen on your first time. Just so you realize it's not that big a deal.
Sure.
So even something moderate and like this isn't, I think it's definitely worse to skip an entire song back halfway through. But it's good to even just like do something that doesn't get a laugh. And you can be like, oh, that was fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
So you feel you haven't got a taste of what could happen?
No, because nothing disastrous happened.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
So you haven't got a taste of what that could be. So that's
no. But even just saying like one thing and not really getting any laugh, that's fine by me. Because it was honestly like, oh great, that was it, and now you just, I'm just going to move on, and then you get a laugh later.
But I think it was the kind of way that we set up the podcast is that as it's a live podcast, a lot of it shouldn't be about laughs. It's about listening and being interested. People are there to during this. It's not laughs. It's still
this has been our least funny podcast for a long time.
Oh, of course, but I mean, a podcast as a medium. A lot of it's about listening and not just laughing.
But that's not
then as
really
soon as
what
it
we
comes
do.
on stage, and especially when you're with other stand-ups, the whole day of the game is just to get punchline, and I prefer that as a standard.
Yeah,
but
I also don't think that's mostly how we do this podcast.
I guess so.
We've stopped the in-depth conversations other than today.
Yeah.
And it's mostly just chucking out ridiculous stuff.
I was happy with how good the room smelt. I saw a live podcast.
It smelled like fear to me.
Did it?
No.
Well,
Jesus. What does fear smell like?
Oh, BO. I saw a live podcast in that room 2 days earlier, and it was sort of interesting just to see what it was about. And it was there's like it was a left wing podcast, and it's like left wing incels, which are their own sort of thing. And there was a smell of BO.
Yeah,
there was like a.
You're saying incels are sweaty.
Yeah, and
I think it's a fair assumption.
Even when I'm like, I don't know, when you go to certain, even like. Maybe not. Tim Dillon, there was a bit of a stink on it from a different aspect. So I was a little concerned that, I'd come in and see who listens to the podcast, and it's like, and you just get hit by like a neckbeardy smell.
Yes.
But everyone seemed
unkempt neckbeards.
Yeah, and I was really happy with you want people who listen to the podcast to be similar-ish to you. You want them to be, not terrifying people, and I don't think they were. So
they weren't. Yeah. There wasn't a. I guess there wasn't a BO smell in the room.
There wasn't, which was it's something to be proud of, because whenever internet fan bases meet together, it is often a merging of musks.
Yes, which can often not create the best cocktail of sweat.
Exactly.
Bookmark boys, although Patreon.
Sex.
Yeah, do you want to talk about me fucking?
Patreon.
Oh, you want it for Patreon? Yeah, okay, cool.
Bookmark boys. We didn't manage to do an ad for them in the live podcast.
We probably could have, because I think
it would have been a bit of fun trying.
Because there were only about maybe 7 people in the room who hadn't seen the podcast.
Yeah,
that would have been perfect.
That was it. Also very interesting is I ask who here has never listened to the podcast, and there was like 6 or 7, and that's always just fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I know I kind of know what that's like if you just go to something and it's a whole new fan base. You have absolutely no
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
what the in jokes are or any of that stuff.
We haven't actually got loads of in jokes on this podcast, really.
I mean, we went in detail on all of the old Boys Gone Wild.
You know what? Yeah, we do. It's Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah.
But we explained it to them.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about cum, which I guess is not an in joke, but I think within the context.
Cum? Oh, my masturbation and sex habits. Yeah.
Which I think can verge upon the in jokes.
Yeah, it can.
Bookmark Boys. If you're looking to mark your books with boys, then there's no better.
I don't think there's any other place you can mark your books with boys other than Bookmark Boys.
Strange that they called it Bookmark Boys thing is it's a whole selection of genders. I've got 3 boys but 1 woman here. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. There's another woman here. The kind of array of genders does not talk about the name. It doesn't quite make sense.
Do you think it's marketed for boys only to buy? Is it like a dick only thing?
It's a men's. In the way that men's
Yorkies,
face Yorkies, bulldog acne cream.
Yeah.
Clean your face, but not in a gay way.
Yeah.
That sort of marketing. I think that's what she's trying to do with the Bookmark Boys, which is like keep your place in your book, but not like benders do it.
Yeah, it's a polite way to be sexist.
Yeah. Well, it's more actually encouraging men to be more metrosexual in the way that acne cream marketing at men is a way of.
Do you think it's just one? Do you think
skin.
it's just a campaign to get boys to read more books?
Yeah.
So they're not such horrible people.
So they don't. Yeah. So they learn more. So
they
about
stop fuckboying around. They stop gaslighting people.
So if you have a son or a cousin or just anyone who has a kind of violent psychopathy,
Psychopathology.
Yeah. Psychopath. Okay, I guess so. Then I'd recommend getting them a Bookmark Boys bookmark to encourage them to read and learn more about the human.
And it can also be a bit of a slight. You can give someone a bookmark as a present, as the implication of like you don't read enough books. Maybe it's because you don't have a bookmark. Please read some more books and stop gaslighting women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the ad done.
What time are we on?
40. Is there anything else you want to say about the live pod?
No.
No.
No, I think we're good at live pod. Do we want to make the whole episode live pod?
No. I just wonder if we've missed anything.
No, we haven't. Well, we've missed that. What should we want to do?
We'll do that in the Patreon.
Yeah. So do you want to do Jubilee?
Yeah, we got loads.
Yeah. What do you want? We were going to do an hour and do both.
Do rugby?
Yeah, I could do rugby. There's a bit in there.
Yeah, do rugby.
Let's do 10.
Yeah, 10 rugby and then
Patreon.
I'm exhausted.
Me too.
Yeah. So we'll just power through.
Yeah. So on Saturday, I had a very enlightening experience. I had got my sister's boyfriend's tickets to go and see the Rugby League Challenge Cup final. Apologies, the Betfred Rugby League Challenge Cup final.
Yeah.
Must include the sponsors. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So
is it Rugby League?
Rugby League. So it's like if you want to go at the moment. Rugby Union. If you go and watch Premiership Rugby, you'll see rugby fans. If you go and watch England Internationals, you'll see white girls who are going for the first time. Rugby League, you're seeing Northern Warriors who are coming down. Real rugby fans.
It's like
there's nothing to do with like it's a pure love of the game.
Yeah,
it's actually one of the best crowds I've seen. Just pure. Every single person, their eyes were just glued on the game.
Tories?
No, Tories. No, they're like hardcore working class Northerners.
Yeah, Bovril and that.
Bovril and that, yeah. There was actually they were handing out free Bovril everywhere. No bread as well though, just spoon to mouth. But no, it was
so Rugby Union's the Tory one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rugby Union. Yeah.
The problem with I don't like the Rugby League's called Rugby League because there's a league in Rugby Union.
Yes,
it's a league. It's slightly annoying. Rugby League,
But there's also reunion in Rugby League.
Is there?
Yeah, the fans
and the
sport and the game.
And Rugby League, is it worth a differentiation?
It's an interesting question
because it's like I feel rugby, though it's a global sport, doesn't have enough appeal to split into two very similar sports. Football doesn't even do
Now,
it. Well,
this might shock you to hear, but they're not doing it for you.
I know they're not. But, there's a Rugby League World Cup. And I'm not a huge rugby fan, but I watch the Rugby Union World Cup. That's a big event.
Sure.
The Rugby League World Cup, it's like, why are there so many people playing this when it's like you could combine it and get the talents of rugby league? I don't think
There is more combination. So, like, Sam Simmons was a rugby league player and then moved up to not moved up. I didn't mean that. Moved to the rugby union team.
It feels like it's a slight waste of resources. Seeing as that, it's not a huge spectator sport in the UK.
Oh no, it's not.
Spreading it out into two separate.
It depends
sports.
Well, that depends on what your main objective of a sport is. If it's
What's
to grow
your main
it,
objective?
fucking passion, love of the game.
Yeah.
No, and like because it's a very different game.
Very different.
It really is.
Okay,
and I don't want to sound like. So it's a lot.
You have two less people.
Yeah.
Because they're all playing rugby union. So
the points are different. No, but there's no rucks or mauls, essentially. That's it.
Okay.
And what
That is
happens,
quite different.
you might prefer it actually. So what happens is you get 6 tackles and then the ball gets overturned to the other opposition.
Oh, so it's really
To the
quite
opposition.
different.
Yeah, it's really different.
Yeah.
So
it's
you
more
go, so it's
free-flowing.
like, yeah, it's all about like, it's mostly, right. So what I really realized when I was there, and this is not, what I realized when I was there is it's less about just the heavy men running over people. It's all about running lines, and it's a lot more intricacy in the tactics of the game because it's the most complex and amazing rugby I've seen, definitely.
So it's a purer rugby.
It's a pure rugby.
Why do they play rugby union then? I've changed my tune.
What?
I've changed my tune.
Because
let's all play rugby league.
Because they're testing different skills
What's
of the sport.
rugby union testing?
It's more about a war of attrition. It's like, but that's an all-out warfare. Rugby league is a bit more about skill and I'd argue a bit more tactical.
And it's more popular in the north.
Yes.
Yeah.
But no, because it's like amazing watching because like if you think you know what you remember rugby loosely. Yeah. Well, actually you didn't play it.
Yeah.
But just like when you're passing the ball out in rugby union, you've got all the forwards in the rock of the maul or whatever's going on, and then you've got how many back, like 7 backs or something, and they might be running some lines on there's no one in there, so there could be like 12 people on this side of the pitch, and they're all just running different ways,
so
and
it's, like
it's
Aussie
all about
rules.
trying to. No, don't bring that in. Don't bring that in. But it's like trying to decipher. It's like a magic trick. It's like trying to hide the ball. And then because there's no one, the whole point of rugby union is that people get dragged into the ruck and then you kind of ship it out quickly and you can find the gaps. There's almost no gaps on a rugby league pitch, meaning you have to make your own gaps, which is a really cool thing about it.
Yeah. So you really enjoyed it more than you thought you would.
No, I knew I'd enjoy it. I've watched some rugby league, obviously not a lot, but but I was definitely the most metrosexual man there.
Really?
It was astonishing.
So all northern geezers had come down to London.
And I was there in my tucked-in t-shirt with my sunglasses on. They're taking selfies.
You're not a rugby league. Your love of rugby is one of the most Tory things about you. Not Tory, but you know.
Yeah. So, my love of niche sports.
Yeah.
But no, there was a point where the B reel came up, and I was like trying to get the right angle and just like doing my hair. And I could just see there was just like a 60-year-old northern lady and her massive sons just right.
Be real. I'm listening.
Just right behind me. I'll do it after. Just right behind me. And I could really feel the gaze of them looking like, this man doesn't belong here. Yeah. He shouldn't be here. But I did it. I had a pie. That was my
What pie did you have?
That was my highlight. My pie, I had what was it? So Joe went and got it, and he said there was a buttermilk chicken option, but I went for the mince and ale, and I was like, I'm so glad you went for that, because I feel like that would have really made my standing in the crowd even worse, because that cunt's got a buttermilk chicken pie. Get him.
A buttermilk chicken pie.
At the rugby league?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding.
You've got to be kidding.
If it's not beef, you can get out.
Yeah, because when I went to rugby union, there was pulled pork, so it felt...
There you go. There's the difference.
Yeah,
that's the difference between the two. Pulled pork, no. Give me a fucking pie or give me death.
And it was in Tottenham.
It was an incredible stadium.
What was so amazing about it?
Like the size and like how it's really steep. The seats are really steep.
So it's a great view.
I bought cheap tickets a long time ago though. They were 25 quid each to it's basically the final of the league.
Was it sold out?
No, not at all.
Oh.
Not at all. We were 60% capacity. But we definitely went in the wrong gate, and we just ended up in amazing seats, and no one checked. So we were so close to the pitch.
There's only 3 seats.
Yeah, I definitely clicked up at the top, like in the rafters, but we thought we were in the right place, but then we were looking for seat 670 in row whatever, and we were row and we could see like seat 20, but we just sat down. But that's also the good thing about rugby league is that they don't separate the fans. Everyone's just in amongst it.
Yeah, that's the same with all rugby.
Yeah, I know. It's the same thing about rugby union, but it really shows. It's kind of, in a way, that's what I said I missed about like a football game. There was a couple of times where I just chose to support a team instead. I just thought I'm gonna support these guys.
Yeah.
Wigan, who ended up winning, so they can thank me for that later.
Yeah.
But there was a time where someone, the other team, made a bad tackle or something, and I went straight into the fuck you, two fingers to it, and then I looked around, no one else was doing it. I was like, I don't think this is the right place to do that. So although it's lovely seeing everyone get along, I did miss the football, everyone hating each other for a bit. You want a bit of that animosity. Although it's lovely seeing it all happen, you want the sporting gladiatorial kind of thing of fuck you, you're scum, and we're going to murder you.
Yeah. I do think there's something about football that has a kind of like almost like crack-like effect on people because the behaviour is just
it's abysmal.
But across the whole world, it's like it's not a culturally specific thing.
No,
basically, apart from the United States, football fans everywhere.
But it's to do with if it's your main sport or not. I think.
Yeah.
If it's a secondary sport, why are we fighting?
Exactly.
It's very peaceful. Whereas if the main sport of a country kind of becomes in sync with just all the rivalries that exist within the country anyway.
Yeah.
So
we're doing a shortened episode today because as I said before, we're
dead.
We're trying to preserve an element of creativity because we've got another podcast to do tomorrow. We've just done a podcast this week. The live podcast is going on the Patreon, so we've recorded it and it should go on the Patreon. So we've got everything saved, so if you didn't get a ticket, we'll put it up there, and we'll finish this episode now on the Patreon. So remember to subscribe, help the boys out, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.